Welcome to m-hance presents the 12 Days of Hintmas. On the 8th day of Hintmas, GP gave to me some new names for windows in the system. So why would our windows need some new names? Well, in here, in our payment transactions, and I mentioned this on a previous hint, our billed payment batch in the older versions of GP, this was called select checks, this was edit checks, this was edit vendor checks, and this was print checks. This was post checks. You're getting the idea. Most of us don't use that many checks nowadays. They will be few and far between. And typically with suppliers, what you're going to be paying out is BACS or EFT. So Microsoft have renamed these windows in line with that. It's the same window. So when I go into them, there's your select checks window as was, build payment batch as is, or edit payment batch. It used to be edit checks, it's now edit payment batch, and so on. So these are now called payments rather than checks. So that's about time, I guess. The other thing in here on the payments, when I'm in here, when I go into my batches, and there's no prizes for noticing that the origin hasn't changed, it's still computer check in here, but we'll forgive them that as long as the rest of the windows aren't. Within this window now, when I create a batch, so any batch before, the checkbook used to default in, other than when we were doing the computer checks or EFT or whatever. It now defaults into our default on the creditor's ledger. Okay, so the bank account now defaults in, you don't have to select it. The reason it wasn't selected before, I guess, is to make you think about what bank account I'm making these payments from. But now it's, maybe it annoyed too many people, and it was one of the suggestions that Microsoft took on board. In any case, you now don't have to pick the bank account unless you're changing it, so it will stick with your default. Okay, so those are a couple of changes around windows and naming in our purchase ledger, and that's our hint for today. Hope to see you tomorrow.